It's Wednesday, October 11th at 4 o'clock, which means you're in for a treat. Last night, behind lane 13 in a candlelit bowling alley, a group of scientists, savants, and guys wearing Orioles jerseys burned the midnight oil to deliver the most captivating and comprehensive segment in all of sports media. It's an honor. It's a privilege. It's time for Nick's Tears.
Thank you, as always, for the wonderful introduction, Kevin Wildes. A clarification and an apology before we start the tears.
Yeah.
First, the clarification. The committee requested that I set the record straight because the last time Coach Mangini was here, he said the Chiefs are atop the tiers no matter what. So we checked the archives, 21 editions of the tiers last year, 7 different times the Chiefs were not at the top of the tiers, and so there is
Why
a
there's
level
a committee.
of...
Was somebody
There is also... someone 7 times, there was 7 times someone was above them. Also, in the apology, last week, Marshall, who's the member of the committee that has the English degree, like Brew, he was out sick, so our names for the tiers were not as good as usual. This week, he was back, and it's some of his best work. Bottom of the tiers, key card season. That's when you show up to work and you're like, oh boy, is it going to work? Am I going to get swiped in or not? Everyone on these teams, players and coaches, are getting to the facility like, oh boy, is the key card going to work? Next, rarely, but occasionally frisky.
Sure.
A quarter at a time, these teams are interesting. The Vikings, and not so much now that Justin Jefferson's out. The Jets, if the defense is rolling. The Bears, if it's the 1 week a month. Justin Fields looks like a franchise quarterback. The Cardinals for usually the second quarter each week. And the Washington, if Sam Howell has it that day and he's not just getting power bombed to the center of the earth. Hanging by a thread. All these teams are 2-3, except for the Colts, who are 3-2, but just lost their quarterback for more than a month. All of them are still alive. They are all still viable playoff teams theoretically, but they cannot suffer a 2-game losing streak over the next couple months. They have to string together some wins or at least alternate wins and losses, or else they'll be relegated a tier lower. The NFC South. So, I mean, 9 wins combined, but 5 of those wins have come against Carolina, Minnesota, Chicago, and New England, 4 of the worst teams in the league. Only 1 win versus a team with a winning record, and it was the Bucs over the Saints, who are in the NFC South. I mean, it's just, it's the NFC South. It's what Red Zone's for, I guess. 4 teams, 2 spots at best. That is assuming none of the teams below them get hot. All 4 of these teams had serious playoff expectations. The Bengals had serious Super Bowl expectations. At least 2 of them are going to miss the party entirely, maybe more. And you see 3 of them are NFC North teams that are going to beat each other up. And the Chargers, of course, who still are yet to play the Chiefs, and their schedule gets much harder over the next few weeks. Overrated, underrated, properly rated. These 3 teams are all about equivalent in talent, yet they are discussed very differently. The Dolphins' defense is a legitimate concern. They have played 2 legit offenses in the Chargers and the Bills, and both of them moved the ball at will on them up and down the field. They're a touch overrated. They're good, but they're a touch overrated. The Seahawks were not ready to play week 1. They since then suffered multiple offensive line injuries, multiple defensive injuries, and all they did was win games. They now have gotten healthier, and they were a good team last year. And then the Lions properly rated. Hey, that's a really good team. They're not a great team. I don't think most people think they're going to go to the Super Bowl, but any given week they can win. That's how all 3 of these teams are, but the Dolphins seem to be here, the Seahawks here, and the Lions there. Brew rolls right off the tongue. CCGOB. Conference championship game or bust. I mean, that's what people are saying. And that's for the Bills, the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Jaguars. None of these teams can afford to go backwards. For the Bills, the roster gets very expensive next year. They kind of went not totally all in, but partially all in on the last couple seasons. The Cowboys we've discussed. The Ravens have won 2 playoff games total since they won the Super Bowl 11 years ago. And the Jags, this is the last year before you have to play Trevor. All of them need to at least be in the Final 4. Obviously, all of them won't be, but that's why they are CCGOB teams. Next, tempting the gods. What do we mean tempting the gods?
Oh, Dusty.
The brotherly shove play is frowned upon for a couple of reasons. You're tempting the gods because it feels a little cheap, but you're also tempting the gods because you are putting your $250 million quarterback at risk in the meat grinder play after play after play. Additionally, after they play the Jets, 7 of their next 8 games are against the Dolphins, the Chiefs, the Bills, Seattle, San Francisco, and Dallas twice. So credit to them for being 5-0 at this point because they really need to be. But that schedule is about to beat them up. All right. As promised, the 0-4 Pats. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. That's the last team to go back-to-back. That is a team that, for the first time in its dynastic run, had an excellent offense after always having an excellent defense. This year's Chiefs, trying to go back-to-back, for the first time in its dynastic run, has an excellent defense. And by the way, they went 14-2, and one of their losses was a 1-point loss. That kind of didn't make a lot of sense. And then at the top of the tiers, the 0-4.
Wow.
What a day.
The 0-4 Steelers.
Stunning.
That Steelers team had a quarterback starting for the first time, was 13-0. They had the #1 defense in football across the board. They were clearly the most dominant team in the NFL all year long. What, Coach? What's the problem?
We beat the 0-4 Steelers.
The 0-4 Patriots?
The 0-4 Patriots.
I wonder why.
Now it all new information. Oh, I guess we need to update those tiers. Now that I know that. So you mean a team that's quarterback was 13-0 and had the #1 defense was 15-1, the most dominant team? The team going for the back-to-back for the dynasty, they beat them? Oh, was it close, or did you crush
Did you
it?
actually
41
switch the
points.
tiers now?
Picked off Roethlisberger
Oh my goodness gracious! Well, I'm glad you told me that, Coach. The committee must have been snoozing during that conference championship game. So there it is.
So wait,
this week
now Kansas City's on top?
Well, I mean, I can't have the 0-4 Steelers and the 0-4 Patriots. I mean, that's anathema to history. I mean, come on. Let's be fair. Coach, go right ahead, sir.
I'm glad Marshall's back.
Yeah.
I think the names have improved significantly
Thank you.
from where it was. I am going to say that you're lying again on the tiers here because of where you have the lines, and I have a real problem with this. You've got the tier up. Every single one of those teams has 2 losses, right? The tier below, every single one of these teams has 1 loss. But with the Lions, their 1 loss came in overtime. They had a -3 on the giveaway takeaway, and they still only lost by a touchdown in overtime. If we bring up some of their stats here, if you look at them offensively, they're top 10 in every major offensive category. If you look at them defensively, they're top 10 in a bunch of defensive categories.
Pretty good.
So I don't know why the 4-1 team somehow falls on the tier below the group above.
Solid.
It makes no sense.
All right, well, you make some very compelling cases. I think your statistical case was far greater than your standings case because these are Wildes.
Not the standings.
Not the standings. I mean, you can get those. Local USA
completely understand that. However, a 1 loss in overtime.
Nick's lying again about his tiers. Well done,
Thank you.
Smith.
Thank you very much.
Here's the other problem I would say, Brew, is I think it's very difficult to elevate the Lions and not simultaneously elevate the Seahawks, who also, to your point, have 1 loss, and the Lions' loss, of course, came to the Seahawks. But go ahead, Brew.
Look,
Lions
I
did beat
was
Kansas City.
I was
Best win anyone has in the league.
prepared to give you props for being objective, but apparently that's reserved for this side of the table.
Oh, you guys weren't even on camera for that. You guys have practiced that all afternoon.
They should have been
ready.
Can we do it
See if you
again?
guys can run that back at the end of the segment. Go ahead.
Wow, that felt
Fired
awkward.
up a bit. Go ahead.
The Jaguars, come on, man, really?
Thank you.
Every team below them, Miami, Seattle, and Detroit, is better than the Jaguars and should be ahead of them. 2 strange victories overseas. I don't know what's going on in London. They get to stay over there and, have their family come and they're living over there for weeks at a time. And another team just flies over the day before the game. Let's play. That is what you're banking on? Your quarterback's thrown 5 touchdowns in 5 games. He's also got 5 combined interceptions and fumbles, okay? Not playing very princely. And they average 21 points a game. Come on. The Jags just aren't getting it done. And that division is up for grabs, actually. Okay. Surprising.
So are we moving down just the Jags or the Jags and the Bills?
Just the Jags.
Okay, there's no. All right, well then you've lost the argument.
Not the standings.
There is no, but there is no argument to be made for the Bills
Well,
over
then
the
the
Jags.
Lions should be ahead of the Chiefs.
No.
Both have one loss.
I'm
They
not-
beat them
I'm
head
not-
to head.
No, because I am not arguing the Jags are above the Bills. I am simply saying if the standard is you have a couple you have a head scratching loss, you have not looked great every week.
Every week.
You haven't. Like the Jags have
Most weeks.
What? No.
They
The
are
Jags.
not
Hold on. Here's the
impressive.
problem, Brew. You said the AFC South is up for grabs. The AFC South has good teams, but then the Jags win in the AFC South.
Well, they
to throw
got
away.
hammered by Houston.
Which, yes, they have one bad.
It's 2 and 3.
They've played one bad game all year, the Texans game. There's no shame in losing to
They've
the
won
Chiefs.
one
Literally
game in the
everyone will the
continental
rest of the
United
year.
States.
Go ahead. Okay, well that's.
I'm just saying.
The United States
This is where we play. It's the national.
We're going to move the
football
playoffs. We're
league.
going to move the
They
They got
playoffs
not
one
overseas.
win in the nation, right?
You
If they
can't
play
say
the
continental
playoffs
United
in
States,
London,
Brew.
maybe
Yeah,
they'd be
go
all
ahead.
right.
I think the
Get
Dolphins
Indianapolis.
are fantastic.
Okay.
Well, they are. Here's what I
Why are
like.
you doing these puns? I thought you hated puns.
I like this one.
Oh, good one.
Fantastic.
Go
You
ahead.
get it, bro?
I get it.
Fantastic. Here's the thing. I just like awesomeness, and I feel like at this point we're taking the Dolphins for granted. Here's how Tua's doing. Is he second in anything? Yeah, he's tied for second in passing touchdowns. You just know he's going to air it out. Games with 500 total yards this season. This is the whole league. The Dolphins have 3. The rest of the league has 0. I also think this guy, Mike McDaniel, is at a point around Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, maybe Ben Johnson with some of the tricks he's doing. He's just like legit having the most fun. It's like a creative writing exercise for him out there. Is the defense an issue? Sure. Is it an issue if you're scoring 45 points? Probably not. I just feel like the Dolphins are, at this point, you're taking them for granted.
I'm not taking them for granted.
Taking them for
but
granted a little bit.
I'll be very clear on it. I think that they are a poor man's version of the 18 Chiefs, and the 18 Chiefs weren't good enough. And the 18 Chiefs didn't have a guy who one day could be Andy Reid. They had Andy Reid. And they didn't have a quarterback who was trying to, turn himself into a star. They had the league MVP as a star. They both had Tyreek Hill. They had a bunch of skill, but you had to score 35 to win. And listen, Vic Fangio, I respect him. Right now it hasn't been working, and they really miss Jalen Ramsey, and they just
Coming back.
lost Achan for at least the
A
next
little while.
month or so.
Mostert can play. All right, coming up next.
See that, Coach? Defense.
Is this
That's
Russ's
what
last start
what
in
I've always
Denver?
said.
One person here.
Running the
thinks
ball.
so, yes.
Oh, look. Oh, let's see it. Let's see it. Oh, they nailed it.
And the snap. And the snap.
Broussard was.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.